Have you ever noticed how revolutions often just end up looking exactly like the oppressive regimes they overthrew? I mean, the rebels stormed the palace, and then within a decade, they are the ones building the dungeons.
Right. It is a very bleak cycle to look at.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive, where we are exploring why humanity just seems trapped in this exhausting loop of power. Our mission today is to dig into a fascinating 2026 philosophical treatise.
Yes. The one comparing Michel Foucault's famous diagnosis of power to Dr. Pramod Pawar's theory of Monos pendulum discourses.
Exactly. And a Monos pendulum, just for you listening, is basically a pendulum swinging wildly between two extremes, like power and resistance. It swings until it finally loses momentum and just rests at a center 0 point.
And we really want to find out if humanity can actually reach that center, right? Like, can we escape the cycle, or are we just stuck?
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really appreciate Power's proposed escape route, we first have to understand the trap Foucault laid out for us decades ago.
Yeah, so Foucault gave us this concept of pouvoir savoir, which is power knowledge. He argued that power isn't just top-down oppression, like a king ruling his subjects.
Right, it's not just a dictator telling you what to do.
No, not at all. It is this pervasive web that actively produces our reality, our institutions, and even, like, the language we use to define ourselves. What's fascinating here is that Foucault believed resistance operates entirely within this exact same matrix.
Oh, wow. So you can't just step outside the web.
Exactly, because your tools for fighting the system were literally built by the system itself.
So Foucault isn't just saying power is a disease, right? He's saying it's like an autoimmune disease. The very antibodies we produce to fight the illness, our resistance movements, are made of the exact same corrupted cells.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We're fighting the body with the body. That is why the new boss almost always ends up looking just like the old boss.
Right, which makes Foucault seem like this brilliant doctor who flawlessly diagnoses the cancer, but then he just outright refuses to write a prescription to cure it.
Exactly. He leaves us in what critics call diagnostic paralysis. He points out the trap, but he offers absolutely no way out. And this is where Dr. Power steps in, specifically to write that missing prescription.
And he does this using a mathematical philosophical formula, right?
He does. It is designed to transition society from those toxic power dynamics to a state of oneness. And the formula is 1 minus 1 equals 0 equals 1.
Wait, really? Mathematically, you have totally lost me. How does 1 minus 1 equal 1? I mean, what does that first one even represent?
So the first one represents the rigid concept of the self, and then the second one represents the other, like the enemy or the oppressor.
Oh, okay. So the minus sign is the dissolution of that rigid binary.
Exactly. When you stop viewing your identity purely in opposition to an enemy, you hit the zero. Power calls this zero-ness within. And out of that 0 emerges the final equals 1, representing oneness.
Right, a state where we keep our diverse identities, but just without the artificial divisions driving the pendulum.
I have to push back on this, though.
Oh, go ahead. Isn't aiming for a 0 point just like a form of philosophical quietus? I mean, if you just sit around meditating on 0, does pausing actually do anything to change a corrupt society?
It is a totally fair challenge, but zero-ness within isn't just some empty, passive void. It is a highly active, conscious suspension of the ego's impulse to dominate.
So it's about stopping the immediate reaction.
Yes. When Foucault's pendulum swings, human instinct is to strike back with equal force. Zero-ness is the active mechanism of pausing that instinct. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this active pause is the only mechanism that allows raw resistance to mature into actual reconciliation.
Right, rather than just flipping who sits at the top of the oppressive pyramid. But still, if zero-ness is just an internal state, Foucault would probably argue it's useless against external oppression. Like, how do we translate a meditative pause into actual geopolitical change?
Well, he does have an answer for that.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Pawar doesn't leave this in the realm of theory. He anchors the internal pause to material reality through this concept called the gravity of groundedness, right?
He really does. He applies this directly to modern technopolitics. Take artificial intelligence, for instance. Pawar argues that artificial intelligence plus human intelligence must equal human intelligence, or HHI.
Oh, wow. Because right now, algorithms are largely optimized for raw engagement, which, usually just means driving polarization.
Exactly. So HHI requires us to fundamentally change the architecture of our technology, subordinating automated decisions to human empathy. The mechanism is literally coding that 0-point pause into our digital infrastructure so our systems don't just default to conflict.
And he takes a similarly structural approach to language, too, with his equation, I plus U equals we. It treats translation and deep listening not just as passive skills, but as active mechanisms to stop language from being weaponized.
Yeah, and this scales all the way up to his global anti-war doctrine. He treats peace not as some fragile political treaty signed after a war, but as a mandatory evolutionary step.
Right, where the fundamental rule is that no human victory requires another human's destruction. Just as a reminder to you listening, we aren't endorsing these political views, we're simply unpacking the fascinating arguments laid out in the text.
Absolutely. But this raises an important question for you, the listener, about the infrastructure of our daily lives. Do our modern systems, from geopolitical foreign policy to the algorithms curating your social media feeds, actually reflect human dignity?
Or are they mechanically feeding those old, destructive autoimmune loops that Foucault warned us about? So what does this all mean?
Well, if we pull these threads together, the core takeaway is that while unmasking toxic power is necessary, we really can't stay stuck in diagnostic paralysis.
Right. We have to actively transition toward depowering and fundamentally restructuring how we interact.
We have to evolve from merely pointing out the matrix to actively dismantling the ego that fuels it.
And it leaves you with this to think about. If Foucault and Pawar are right, that resistance naturally absorbs the logic of the oppressor, take a hard look at your own interpersonal conflicts.
Yeah, it gets pretty personal.
It does. When you fight back,